Chapter 2, 2.1, Part 2. We're still working on the problems. Write the algebraic expression described. Number 1. A 14-foot board is cut into two pieces. If one piece is x feet long, express the other length in terms of x. All right, we have to do it in terms of x because we really don't know what number x stands for. So we're being very general here. So one technique to figuring this out is to take a problem where you do know how long one of the pieces of the board is and see how you would figure out what the other piece was. For instance, how would you answer this question if you knew that one piece of the 14-foot board was 8 feet long? How would you figure out how long the other piece was? So what I want you to do is think about how you would get the answer. I imagine you can get the answer, but the question is, how do you get the answer? So the picture here would be, you know this is 8 feet, that one piece. You know that the whole length of the board is 14. How would you figure out what this piece was? The whole thing's 14. It's cut into two pieces. One of the pieces is 8. How would you get the answer, which I'm sure you all know is 6? I would do 14 minus 8. So for instance, you know that's 6, right? But how would you do that? You could do 14 minus 8. That's how you can get your answer of 6. You take how long the whole piece is and subtract off how long that one piece is. We're going to do the same thing here. We don't know where exactly this cut is, but let's say this is x. How would we figure out how long this other piece is, knowing the whole thing across is 14? So it's 14 all the way across. This is x. Can you figure that out? What would it be if it was 4? If this was 4, the other would be 10, right? You would do 14 minus 4 to get 10. So what will it be here? The whole thing is 14. This much is x. So hopefully you get 14 minus x. So here's the problem again. A 14-foot board is cut into two pieces. If one piece is x feet long, express the other length in terms of x. So what are we going to do? The whole thing's 14. Part of it has been cut. That took x feet so far. So our answer is 14 minus x. And it's perfectly good to think about how you would do it if you knew the numbers, or to draw a picture. And I just want to make sure that you really see that that would add up to 14, because this is one piece plus another piece. And if we take and add those pieces together, I hope you are convinced x plus 14 minus x, yes, does add up to 14, which is how long the entire board was. Number 2 is similar. Recall that two angles are complementary if the sum of their measures is 90 degrees. One angle measures x degrees. Express the measure of its complement in terms of x. This is very, very similar, except we're talking about angles now. Okay, so if you want to look at a 90-degree angle, it looks like this. Okay, this piece here is 90 degrees. And so what we're doing is we're saying, well, part of it is x. How are we going to figure out this other angle measure if we know all the way from here to here is 90 degrees, okay? It's a right angle, 90 degrees. Well, how would you do this if you knew that one of the angles was 40 degrees? This is a technique to figure it out. What if you knew that one of the angles was 40 degrees? I imagine you know what the answer is. The other one would be 50 degrees, right? But the question is, how do you get that answer? If this was 40 and you know all the way is 90, how would you have gotten that answer of 50? Hopefully you realize all the way from here to here is 90, but you have to take this much off, right? You have to take away that 40 degrees and that's how you get there are going to be 50 degrees left. So this is a technique to figure out how you would do it over here. So if this is x, the whole way is 90. How much is left for this little piece? 90 minus x. Now I didn't put the degree symbol on right now, so we're going to do that now. So the answer is 90 minus x degrees. So if you know like two numbers add up to some larger number and you know one of the numbers, you just take whatever number they add up to and subtract. Right, number 3 is similar, but it's a little bit more complicated than the previous two problems. The sum of the measures of 3 angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. If one angle measures x degrees and a second angle measures 3x plus 4 degrees, express the measure of the third angle in terms of x and simplify the expression. Well, now we're talking 3 angles that add up to 180 degrees. So for instance, they're telling us that the first angle is x, right? And the second angle is 3x plus 4. And now the question is, what's the third angle going to be if it's going to add up to 180 degrees? So when I add these 3 parts together, I should only get 180 degrees. Notice I shouldn't get any x's, just 180 degrees. So let's look at an example in numbers. What if I actually knew what 2 angles were and figure out how we would do it? So let's say we knew that one of the angles was 50 degrees and one of the angles was 60 degrees. And I knew that it had to add up to 180 degrees. Think about how you would figure out how to get that third angle. So I've got 50 degrees so far, I've got 60. This other angle is whatever it takes to add up to make 180, right? So one technique is, well, you know that these two add up to 110 degrees, right? So I could do 180 minus 110 right here. If I do 180 minus 110, I'll get my 70 degrees, which hopefully you figured out that's what this is going to be. So if I know what the first two add up to, I could subtract it from 180. Real similar to how we did it when we only had 2 numbers adding up to something. All right, so we're going to take, this is just an example so we could figure out how to do the problem with variables. Okay, so here we go. When we did our example, what we said, well, let's see what these two add up to if I add them. Okay, let's do that. X plus 3x plus 4 adds up already to 4x plus 4, right? So in my angles, the first two add up to 4x plus 4. So I've got to subtract that from 180. So we take, for the third angle, we're going to take 180 degrees and subtract the 4x plus 4 degrees. All right, now I'm going to leave off degrees for a minute here just to make it simpler. So 180, you got to distribute that minus sign. So it's going to be a minus 4x and a minus 4, which is 176 minus 4x. So that's how many degrees that third angle is. I left off the degrees here too in the way I defined them just to make it a little bit simpler. So let's take off this 180 here. Take off the degrees for a moment. And then we'll plug them back in a minute. So we've got 176 minus 4x. Let's see if this makes sense. Could this be 176 minus 4x? Well, to check your answer, see if those 3 angles add up to 180 degrees. All right, so we're going to check. X, that's the first angle, plus 3x plus 4, second angle, plus 176 minus 4x. Okay, let's just add them up. All right, so we've got x plus 3x minus 4x. Well, that's 0. And 4 plus 176 is 180. So, hey, check it out. It makes sense. It all worked out. All right, so like I said, a little bit more complicated here. So the final answer here is 176 minus 4x degrees. Tough problem. If you didn't get it the first time, that's normal. Second time, maybe still pretty normal. You have to read this and watch it more than a couple times to really make sure it makes sense.